Welcome to the very first episode of Naked Heads Rock, the conversation series where we get real about being bald, including the traumas, the triumphs, and everything in between. I am so honored to welcome our very first guest, our first rock star, Darryl Bego, and he's going to talk all about his bald journey. All right, welcome to Naked Heads Rock. Let's get into it. To kick us off, could you take us back to the beginning and walk us through your bald journey and give us a quick version of how you got to where you are now?
I was one of those individuals. I always had kind of the widow's peak type of thing. I never had the straight hairline to begin with. So a lot of people thought, even as a younger person, that I looked older than what I actually was. Now me, I look more mature. That's what it was. I was more mature. Ironically, just in my mid to late 20s, it just started going. It just started vacating the premises. I was developing this golf green up the top here. But I can honestly say this putting green, but I can honestly say I was never really overly self-conscious about it for some reason. At that time, I was a English school teacher, and the kids used to joke here and there, but I would joke back. Probably the mid-20s is when I really started seeing it. And so what I did was, when it started thinning, I would just simply cut it really close. So the prerequisite for my hairstyles was the shorter it got at top, the shorter it got everywhere. To eventually, when there was nothing at top, there was only one other step to make: nothing everywhere. But there's one concern. I always wondered if I had the head to do it. But once I made the decision, again, I was probably 28, 29, maybe 30, and I just went with it. But I can say, along with you, see, but you got the goatee. The goatee was a prerequisite, because before I did it, I will say this had to connect. I used to, it just doesn't look as right to me when you just have the mustache. You had to have the goatee. And at that time, you remember in the early 90s, late 90s, people started doing it. And that was kind of, be honest, but that was kind of the sexy look. That was that manly man look. So that was really my story. It started really mid 20s, or right around 30. It started going away, and so I decided to shave it when the goatee moved in, and I was on par.
So that's an interesting point. Okay, so let me just make sure I got this straight. So when you finally shaved your head, you did decide to grow the facial hair, or was there kind of a transition period?
No, there was a transition period. I made sure the goatee was fully in field first before I shaved it.
How many years have you actually been shaving, like with a razor shaving your head?
Probably right around, I would say, 99, 2000 is when I really started shaving. So I've been doing this for maybe about 25 years.
Okay, so when you did that, did you try anything else to save your hair first? Any topical treatments?
I actually didn't. Again, my whole process was, however it short it gets on top, I'm going to shave it on the side, to eventually it was no longer there. So that left me with an obvious solution: to shave it all off. It's just then I didn't know how to take care of it as much, or what the best practices was, because I saw a video of Michael Jordan shaving his head in a sink. And that's how used to do it. He used to shave his head and, use it. But I realized, man, that is borderline hazardous to your health. Your head dries out, and then the razor has a better chance of snagging you. So I got a couple of cuts, and it was like, this got to be a better way. And that's when I heard about shaving in the shower, and been doing that ever since.
To your point about the story with the sink and shaving, so did you have anybody helping you with going through this process about what do you do, what products to use, what does your process look like?
I tell you, one thing that was key for me is that prior to me shaving everything off, I was familiar with, or I would always cut my own hair. I would take a mirror and I could cut my hair using clippers in the back. So I never felt like I needed help in terms of seeing what was happening in the back. I just had to learn how to switch hands, with the razor, to do left and right. So I'm ambidextrous in terms of cutting. But so that was it. I just immediately took to doing it myself.
So then how did you land on your razor routine? How'd you walk through that process?
At first, it was like, you thought that you needed to have a high end razor so that it would go more smoothly over your head, and things of that nature. And I just used initially basic warm water and shaving cream. But I said, you know what? As I transitioned into the shower, especially, I realized soap matters because when you're in the shower, your head, the surface of your head stays moist, and so therefore it allows the razor to glide much easier, even with soap. So it just became part of my normal bathing routine. And I would put the soap on my head, and I would just shave. Now, and you as well as I know that shaving razors became expensive, And so I said, "Can I do this with daily razors and stuff as long as they had the pivot head?" And so I started doing that and, had some success with that. And so since then I realized I went to Walmart and I bought one of the mirrors and stuck it up in my shower stall so that I could see. And ever since then, it's just been my daily routine, and I do shave my head daily every morning as my normal bathing routine. Just get out the soap, no matter what it is, and just shave.
Can you walk us through the specific products you use to make it work for you? What have you landed on?
I make sure after I shave, I come out and I use some kind of aftershave. That's what I put on my head. I don't put direct lotion on it because it's a little greasier, but I do that because not only for that it smells good, but it tends to have some cooling effect to it so that, after I've shaved, it just kind of treats it a little bit. But other than that, it's been very, very simple for me. Just soap, water, and the after lotions to do it. Now, every once in a while, I will put cocoa butter or something on it. Like if I've gotten a burn or something, from, the razor, which very rarely happens. Because now I'm pretty simple.
What razor do you use?
I use just the basic Gillette disposable razors. When I started out, I used to use the high tech razor, the $15 razors with the $24, because I felt like that really really mattered. Sometimes dull razors are a little easier for me in the shower because I can press down a little more and not have to worry about getting cut as much. The only frustration is that it takes a little longer because it's not as clean to cut the first time. But I'm always looking for ways to reduce any type of way where I cut myself, and I rarely do it I do think the shower is the key. I really do.
Okay, so you mentioned you use the Gillette. Is it how many blades is it?
It's 3. Generally, I use 3. I mean, I would typically use the 3 blade, and I've used the 2 before. I just find the 3 blade system a little better for me because, again, with me using the cheaper brands, it just has just a better effect in terms of a smoother cut. I've used the 2 blade brands as well, but I prefer the 3.
Did you feel that when you started this or when you started noticing anything that was going on with it, was it traumatic for you? Was it just kind of like, well, that's life? And that like how did you ease into it or was it kind of a shock?
It just was a natural progression in terms of what was happening. At the time, I was already married, so and she's not complaining about it. So I can say it was not really a traumatic event for me. Like some of my friends that I've seen who holding on to the last minute, and it's like so I give them a head inspection and say, you could probably pull it off. You could probably pull it off, but they're not as convinced.
I remember the first time I shaved my head, or not maybe not the very first time, but when I started, people weren't really sure what to think about it. And I mean, I had people actually ask to come up and touch my head.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever have anything like that happen? Okay, yeah, there you go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, "Can I touch it?" Now that was a compliment, Bill. That was a compliment because they were enamored with it enough to be drawn. There's a magnetism.
Okay, so you mentioned you had the girl going along with it. So what did she think when you finally made that transition? Was it no big deal, or was it like, eh?
But I think she liked it better than the hair being on, on the sides and stuff. Because she said it made me look younger, but also made me look sexier. So that was the Raven. Then Michael Jordan, and I'm looking at Tiger Woods now and said, Tiger, give it up. Let it go, bro.
I don't understand. And I mean, and I do understand it because I was that guy
Mhm.
where I
No.
look back at old pictures and I'm like, ooh, I'm like that was bad. That was bad. And then like what was I thinking? What was I seeing? So and I try to reflect back on that and think about it and I can't come up with any rationale as to why I was going down swinging.
Yeah, man, that's so suave. That hairstyle, I mean, you look so suave and debonair, man. Yeah, man, definitely.
And I've had guys say that the one of the reasons they fight it is because they're worried what their head looks like underneath.
Mhm.
And I'm like, well, we'll try it. You can always go back, shave it off, and give it a shot.
Exactly.
So
That was one of my thoughts is that, hey, I could continue to let it grow because my hair, it was already super short. So if I cut it off, it would be back in less than a week, because it was already short. But also, we would be remiss if we didn't appreciate our moms or whoever it was that molded our heads when we were babies to make sure that it was
when was the last time you mixed up your razor routine and changed anything about it?
I'll tell you one thing. It's been this way for quite a while, but one thing I am looking into. I've been seeing the electric razors that cut closer and that you can use in the shower, easily disposable and stuff like that. Simply because I figure an investment of $20-$30 in something like that, where the razors are going to last longer and stuff. Looking at it from not only a practical standpoint, but I'm also curious to see how well that actually cuts closely in the shower. If I do this and it's too rough, that bothers me. I have to shave that. So I like a smooth shave because and then again, going back to what you said before, you never know when someone says, "Oh, I want to feel it." I just think if they feel a little bit of turf on there,
Okay, so when you do that, what do you do to keep down? Do you do anything to keep down the shine?
I go through periods of time when it seems like my hair is effervescent with shine, and there are other times not. And I'm not talking about like the difference between summer and winter. It's just for some reason, sometimes it just feels like it shines more. But I don't put makeup on. I don't do anything. I just literally just put the lotion I get, so I think that keeps the shine down a little bit, but that's literally just my routine. I don't do anything to emit more shine or to or to limit any shine. I just, hey, it is what it is, Phil.
All right, so what is one product that you absolutely swear by and just have to have in your razor routine?
Again, I would like to be deep and say that I'm a connoisseur of razor products or something. For me, it's KISS. I'm telling you, it's keep it simple. Anything that results into a fast and clean shave with minimal risk of cutting is because it's not doesn't feel good if you're going, especially in the back of your head. Like you may have a few little grooves, something where and you have pieces of toilet paper stuck to absorb and I've done that before, to absorb especially if you're in a hurry.
It always happens when you're in a hurry.
Always,
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
always. Whenever I do cut it, it's when I'm not switching right hand to left hand. I'm trying to go to my right hand over to my left hand side, and it pulls a little more. So when I switch hands, hardly ever, and I do it very comfortably. But that's the main thing for me. My routine is, steam. Make sure it's moist. Just use basic soap and just a reliable razor. I mean, and it doesn't have to be very expensive or anything of the sort. It can be a disposable razor, but I do know this: it has to have a pivoting head. If you get the one that's in place, you're more likely. For me, that's when I cut myself. Because there's no give to it, and it's more likely to latch on. But it has to have a pivoting head. That's one thing. And I've actually bought razors that were, disposable razors. If it didn't have the pivotal head, I'm taking it back. I'm taking it back. Immediately, no matter whether it costs $7 or $8. Because I know.
So you're more of the razor connoisseur than you think you are.
Well, I have preferences. But there's there's some people who, and there's nothing wrong with that, who they really get into the products because some people have they're more sensitive to razors even on their head, and just like the face. And so they integrate their facial skincare routines to their head. Although our heads are a little more durable, a little more resilient in terms of oils and all that type of stuff, but there's some people who really do that because they want to make sure that there's no discoloration on the face that makes the head look different.
Because obviously African American skin takes different stuff than Caucasian
Yeah.
skin. So, and that's what I wanted to get at too is like, what did you need? What do you use that's different that I wouldn't know about?
Mhm.
What kind of uniqueness or nuances would there be to the routine is kind of what I was wondering.
Cocoa butter or even the coconut oil. And I'm really thinking about utilizing that more like if I if I was going to do something overnight, because it really does texturize your head to the standpoint where it feels cleaner, it feels, I should say, protected. But I don't do it when after I shave during in the morning because I feel it generates too much shine. But if I was going to develop a routine, or if I had to shave at night for some reason and would gonna I wouldn't have enough time to do it really in the morning, I probably would put that coconut oil or shea butter oil. I would do that just for moisturizing standpoints.
What is your worst shave experience you've ever had?
I remember there was one time I was on my way. I don't know whether it was a wedding, but it was something I had to dress up. I had to dress up and I had to wear a white collar shirt, and I'm rushing through it. And oh man, I get my head really good. I mean, one of those little slits, those little half moon slits. And man, and it was started bleeding and I couldn't stop it. I couldn't stop it. And so, you're panicking. You're thinking, this is this is bad enough where I think I'm going to have to use I'm going to have to use a Band-Aid or something. The shirt that I'm putting on, it wasn't just it was a white collar shirt, but the ones that comes 3/4 down. And when you're doing that, you have to pull it over your head. So I'm thinking, oh man, this is going to ruin this shirt because I wasn't sure I could stop the bleeding. But I think I put a dry washcloth over it or whatever. So I got through that, but I got through it. But that was a harrowing experience. And I just realized is that being in a hurry provides more opportunities for you to have bad cuts.
It's always when you need to be dressed right and nice crisp shirt, and every other time when you're wearing a t-shirt and shorts, you have a perfect shave. But like to your point, as soon as you have to be dressed up or showing good face, it's like, oh.
And see, I have a particular part in my head, like on the side here, there's like a little small indentation that sometimes if I rub the razor quite sort of the wrong way, that's what it get. I can somehow cut myself.
Do you ever have this phenomenon that I like to call, I've just named it myself, I called it shave dust, where you've already shaved a spot and the hair is kind of in the cream and just sitting on there and it's shaved, but it feels like it's not. So you keep going over the same spot again and again and again. Am I the only one that happens to?
No, it happens. Mine is closer to my neck, and I have to keep, yeah, over that same area over and over and over again because it has to feel right. And people need to understand, no one's head is perfectly smooth, So there's little crevices, there's little nuances that you have to navigate with your razor to make sure you get it. Because I'm not no unsecured patch is acceptable to me.
Well, yeah, because you have that one little spot. It's just driving you nuts and you're just grinding at it. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I find like, you know what? I should just rinse my head and start over if I have to.
Yeah, or listen, I'll get out the shower, discover that I missed something, and go to the sink, and put it on that one area. Have you ever been in a position where you've gone through your routine, you've gotten dressed, and then you notice a spot? What do you do in those situations?
I had that exact thing happen to me. But it wasn't just a spot. It was like a longer hairs. I had not
Mhm.
shaved for a while.
Mhm.
So I was on my way to my date and I was rubbing and I found this spot. I literally spent the drive pulling out the hairs like to get it smooth because I didn't have time to go back and fix it. So I'm yanking little miniature hairs out of this spot. I was that desperate. It's terrible, but you do what you got to do because it's driving me nuts, right? And I'm like, who's gonna see it? I look terrible. Oh, it was awful. Oh yeah.
I've actually, the hand soap is different than the body soap, right? I've actually pushed a few in there, put it on there, and just took a dry razor and just got that one spot.
Oh yeah, you do all kinds of desperate things. Yeah, I've done dry shaves, you name it. Oh yeah.
So we need the audience to know that sometimes, hey, it's okay to have your prerequisite sentiments about what you do. I mean, everybody's unique, and feel that you and I are alike. It's like if I don't feel a particular comfort level in terms of how my head feels once I rub my hands over it, hey, it can cause some psychological, drawbacks.
A lot of it, what I mean, it's obviously our first go-to is you change directions, right?
Mhm.
And then
Yeah.
you change directions again. You're going front to back,
Yeah.
side to side, and there's just something about it. And we've been
Mhm.
doing this for 25 plus years, and we still have these issues. Like this is not this.
Mhm.
You never perfect this process.
No.
I hate to tell people that, but it's an ongoing battle.
And sometimes mine's is 3 directions. Is front, is back, is back to front, it's some and side. Sometimes sideways just gets some of the finer stuff. But yeah, you're right. It's a personal thing.
So when you being the shower shaver, so I do this. I'm not sure what you do as well, if you do this as well, but so you get out of the shower. I try to get everything done there, but then I still have to go to the mirror at the sink and kind of finish it up and refine and do all the
Mhm,
fine tuning.
mhm.
Is that the same with you? Same thing?
Yeah, so sometimes because for whatever reason I missed it or whatever. And also for me being in the shower is kind of cathartic, in terms of how I'm reflecting and how I'm, even planning for today or thinking about what I need to do. So sometimes I'll blank out, I'll forget something or whatever in my routine. And then when I get out the shower, I notice it or it'll come back to me. I'll go to the mirror right there in the bathroom and finish up. Sometimes I have to finish up. But the one of the reasons why I put a mirror in my shower is so that I can shave, both my face and my head at the same time. Because for me, if I could only do one or the other, I would forget one or the other, and then have to do it in the in the sink anyway. So that's my own little quirk.
Yeah, it's like no matter how long you do this for, something's always, for some reason, as weird as this is going to sound, for me, it feels like there's always something different. There's still some new challenge. And I'm like,
Mhm,
but I'm shaving the same head. I'm doing the same thing over and
mhm.
over and over again, but there's still these little nuances that get thrown in there. What has been the most creative use for your bald head?
If I would say creative use, more so just as a good luck charm, you rub the ball head, as a good luck charm, right? I was a basketball coach for a while, and some of the players just had to rub it for good luck. I said, so crystal ball, and you have kids who have jokes they come up to because I was a school teacher for a while too. Let me see. Can I see my future in that? So
What's the most creative name you've ever been called as a bald person?
there used to be a television sitcom called Martin that was on, and they would always have jokes with different names on it and stuff like that. And Tommy, who was in that sitcom, he was bald, and so Martin and it got transferred to me. They used to call him Hetty Murphy, you know. Okay, Hetty Murphy. Someone caught wind of it, and of course, if they think it's funny, it gets translated to us.
Were you ever insecure about being bald?
No, I think for me, the fact that when it happened, both from an era standpoint that it was coming in, cool figures on television were bald and stuff like that. It became kind of the trend. So I can honestly say, man, again, my whole mentality is, long as my sides kept up with my top, I was cool. That's how I hid it and obscured it. And then once it started coming off and I had the what I call the tea green, you know, it was naturally for me just to shave it off once I felt like I really had the head to do it. And the people that mattered most to me really liked it. So I didn't have any pushback or someone saying, "Oh man, that looks weird," or anything. So I just embraced it. I just embrace it. I mean, most people said, "Man, you look cool, man," or every once in a while, hey, that looks handsome on you. So, but I think one of the biggest thing, you look younger.
That's the thing we talked about earlier too, and I don't understand why the guys that go down swinging just at every last ditch effort, whatever they
Mhm.
can keep. I'm like, just get rid of it. You'll look 10 years younger.
Oh, you will.
You'll instantly knock off years.
Oh, you will, and it even makes your clothes look better.
The follow-up question that is, so has shaving your head helped you with your confidence?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, again, I mean, just from a social standpoint, and really, especially in the African American community, I understand in the Caucasian community, it wasn't as normal or as typical, which it is now, especially when Bruce Willis and things of that nature. But in the African American community, baldness or being bald was something that was always present. It wasn't as prevalent until I think the '90s and early 2000s when people started seeing it everywhere. To me, it's one of those things where it's part of my identity or what I consider is part of my brand. It's part of my brand. It's who I am, and so I embrace it wholeheartedly and encourage those that, and if you're questioning the authenticity of your hairstyle in terms of where it is, I mean, go in a different direction. Just try it. I would just encourage just try it.
Well, and like we said earlier too, you can always grow back what's there, the little bit, wherever they are, it will grow back.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, for me, no, but you tell me how you think. It's just I think okay, with people who cut it short and still maintain a little fuzz around there. Okay, I get that. I get that. But those who have it really long and they're missing all of this, it that it doesn't look quite becoming, to me. So I think you're more authentic to who you are by just let it go.
That's the funny thing too. I noticed, and I had this revelation just recently because I knew we were getting ready for this discussion, and I wanted to run this past you too. Is that I feel, and I've seen a lot of young guys that are struggling with it and losing it, and they're not doing anything about it. But I had this revelation of like, well, if you were going to do something about it, you would have done it by now.
Mhm.
And if you haven't by now, you really can't go back and get that back.
Mhm.
So just knock it down. Just take it all down, and even like you said, even if you leave the fuzz for a while, just to give it a shot. But go with no blade, knock it down, and then if you wanna razor it, great. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I encourage everyone to just give it a shot. You got to try it.
Yeah, you can do it in layers though, Phil. I mean, you can just go super short, and then before you shave it all off, but also going super short will give you a little more idea what the pattern of your head is.
So, have you found any advantages to being bald?
Oh yeah, I mean, you remember for a long time. Again, I mean that from a female standpoint, there's a lot of women who really just like the bald look, the clean look. If you remember in the African American community way back when, there was Isaac Hayes. He was kind of the sex symbol with the deep voice, and so it was always, I think, in the African American community, a symbol of strength. Or a symbol of sexiness. But also then it transitioned into being a symbol of athleticism. A lot of athletic guys had it. So, so just typically for me, it's been a part of my brand that I've embraced, not only because it out of necessity, but now I think that even if I could grow it all the way back, it would be preferential because I asked my wife, I said, what because these days you can do anything with your hair. They can cover up baldness and with these different wigs and stuff. I've seen it. I've seen men and it looks pretty cool. I mean, look hide fades and all that type of stuff. And I said, well, what if I get it? I said, and she said, no. No, I like it just the way it is.
So, I was gonna say, so you're saying that if you could grow it back, you wouldn't, is what you're saying.
No, I know it because it is a part of my brand. I'm used to it. I embrace it, and so now it's part of a preference as opposed to a necessity.
I remember for me, I grew up and I was a redhead and
Mhm.
the fair skinned Irish freckled kid, with the
Yeah.
red hair. It was a great looking head of hair, and everybody I had perfect strangers complimenting me on my hair.
Yeah. Mhm.
So for me, it was way more traumatic and just a horrible experience. So it sounds like you had an easy route and easy roads. That's awesome. When I did it, the first time I did it, I remember looking in the mirror, specifically thinking to myself, I can picture it like it happened 5 minutes ago, that I look like a cancer patient. And then that was the very first time I did it. And then I'm like, all right, I got to stick with this because obviously it's not coming back. So
Mm.
I let it grow back in for a day or two, and then I did it a second time, and then ever since then I was good. Once I got through that first initial trauma of it, that shock, and then I was good to go after that. But yeah, you got to go through it. You just have to
Mhm.
go through it.
Yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, I do. I agree. Everybody has their curve, Phil. I'm with you. Everybody has their curve of acceptance Mines came a little more quickly, but I did. I mean, I did go with the hair on the side for quite a while.
What is it about men? We just go down swinging and fight till to the death on some of this stuff.
Remember, it was a big deal in terms of the silky hair and all that type of stuff, especially from the Caucasian community. The hair was symbolic of bravado and sexiness or attractiveness, and therefore you hold on to it. But I also think there's parallels to youth. You think, hair, you associated a full headed hair with youth and vitality, or you're getting older. You're just getting old. I think you hold on to it, which is why people color their hair. Their facial hair, they color it and so forth because of what it projects in terms of youthfulness. And so you hold on to it no matter how ridiculous it is. So again, I just think it's about vitality. I think it's about perceived vitality and perceived, I don't know, manliness in terms of the hair.
Everything you said makes perfect sense about just what it is associated with, and the youth and vitality and strength.
I think you do more harm. You draw more negative attention to yourself hanging on to it than you do just going with the flow.
Does being bald really affect your life that much? In the normal life of most people walking around struggling with this, I think it affects it more in a negative way if you hold on to it and keep it versus just getting rid of it. Because I've talked to multiple people that once they did it, they're like, I should have done this way sooner.
That's one reason why I came with you, Phil, and said nice haircut. From one not a hair model to another, I'm affirming you in that. Which can be beneficial. Which can be a confidence builder for someone else. We're kind of veterans of this industry, Phil. So we need to share that affirmation and share that acclamation to them and say, "Hey, man, you look good. It looks good. It looks natural on you." You never know what that little bit of positivity does to the psyche of an individual who may be struggling with it, who's new with it, and we're coming up and saying, "Man, you look great, man. It looks good." And hey, I'm with you. You're my brother.
Well, it's funny too because my wife cracks up because she's coined this little phrase, and she's like, bald people just find each other because you did it to me in church. We were in Home Depot. It was like within a week of these two
Mhm,
things happening. We were in Home Depot, and another dude comes walking up to me and he like comments on it too, same
mhm,
thing. And I'm thinking either he thinks I'm new at this or he must be new at it
mhm,
because he just seemed like, to your point, he needed that affirmation or he needed that comment or that camaraderie or that brotherhood there.
mhm,
And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm overthinking it. And he was a veteran as long as we are too. I have no idea. But it's just
mhm,
funny how it's a thing. Like and I've done it. Like, hey man, nice haircut. Like
mhm,
I like what you got going on. That kind of
mhm.
stuff.
So you feel like you're part of an exclusive club. Again, that affirmation, that feeling of uniqueness, that it's not a curse, it's literally a blessing because there's a lot of us out here. And I coincide with you that most people I know who do it and they feel good about it say, "Man, I should have done this a long time ago." Just the stress and the duress that I engaged just trying to cover it up and stressing about it, man, now I'm free.
Do you have anybody? Does anybody come to mind that, or have anybody in the past, or anybody you've come across as a teacher, anything that they were struggling with something like this?
I have had a few adult friends, staff people and stuff that I knew were struggling with it, and that I know that they saw my head, and then I would encourage them, "Man, you got a great head and stuff," and then those next you know it was shade. Yeah, I have affirmed people through that process before, and I'm glad I did because going back to what you said earlier, Phil, I know that most people when they get comfortable with it they're gonna always say, "Golly, I wish I would have done this earlier." And let me ask you this, do you some people you can see some men, you know how you know somebody's looking at you, you turn and they're like and then they're checking you out. They're seeing, they're probably asking themselves, they probably wanna come up to you and say, "You can see I'm struggling with my hairline and what's going on with me." How did you reach that point? And so sometimes I'll be spirit led or if I feel that it's appropriate, I'll say, I'll make small talk or whatever. I always try to get creative with it, but I mainly really affirm those who I see are really on the verge of doing it, or some who have recently done it, and or who have done it just period, and say, "Hey, welcome to the club, brother. Welcome to the club. And those who out there, hey, don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to do this. You know, we're men. We're men. We're men. We're really really cautious and protective of our egos sometimes. You know, and I think that's where men, locking elbows with other men and affirming us. This can be a social emotional um, determinant in terms of how someone feels. So we should affirm each other. I know that, like that other brothers struggle, with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to affirm them and acclimate them to the idea that hey, you can pull this off, man. You got a great head.
It's so true because I've been on both sides of that because I've suggested people to do it that have come up and asked, and I've had people I've told them to do it and they've done it and they're like best decision ever. Then I've had people who have also recommended they do it, they shave as well, and then they've done it and they actually didn't like it and they grew back what little
Mhm,
they had. I was
mhm,
shocked.
mhm,
I was shocked by that. And I was
mhm.
like, okay. I'm like you said, you can always grow it back.
Phil, but I guarantee you there was someone who made a comment about it. I'm telling you, and guess what? And it may have been a meaningless joke. It may have that the person didn't even really mean it, but the fact that they felt like it drew that type of reaction caused them to revert. But then I know people who had to go through the cycle a couple of times.
I think that's what it comes down to too, is men as fixers that we always try to fix everything. And you alluded to that earlier. You mentioned that earlier too. Is I agree with you 100%. It's like you got to do something about it,
Mhm.
and it can be fixed. It can be fixed. It can be fixed. Like, well, maybe yes, maybe more than likely no.
Yeah, but vitality and vivaciousness and virility are the things that guides men's decisions in just about everything. And those things, unfortunately, are sometimes governed or managed, or I should say, or influenced by by external factors. And that's where it comes from. And when you're looking at mirror and you like who you see first, not just what you see. Feel like who you see, and then what you see is just an outward manifestation of what's going on the inside, and therefore embrace it. Life is an attitude. Now, my definition of attitude is this: it doesn't matter what happens to you in life; it's what happens in you in life what matters most. And so things that are going to happen to you that you had no control over. I mean, we didn't have no control over this. But the bottom line is what's happening in you. That's the paramount question. If nothing is happening in you, it doesn't matter what happens externally and or whatever to you. You're never going to have any control over it anyway. We're often known by the things we've overcome or the person we are at the end of the journey of a challenge that we embraced and took on head on and overcame it.
Do you have any advice for other people who are thinking about doing this? They're on the fence. They're not sure what to do, where to
Mhm.
turn, where to go.
Just gradually go into it. Like me, it was gradual for me, as the hair on top kept diminishing, I diminished the size just so that it looked equal or whatever balance. But you got to look at it this way: if you're uncomfortable with covering up, then that lets you know that there's something wrong. I mean, there's something not natural in terms of how you are approaching this or receiving this in terms of your sense of self affirmation. Because people don't understand the word self-esteem, right? Self-esteem is how you feel about yourself. But that word esteem is actually the word awareness. So you can't have true self-esteem unless you're self-aware. And self-aware meaning I'm aware that this is who I am, this is the state that I'm in. Therefore, I'm going to embrace it because obviously I'm feeling threatened by the fact that I don't feel good about where my natural progression of aging or whatever or thinning is going. And what you'll find in that awareness and affirming yourself first, then you will do things that you feel are in your best interest in terms of how you look to you. Because you're the one looking in that mirror every day. Do it as gradually as you will. If it's definitely leaving you, then shave it shorter on the side. That way people you're not totally bald. People are seeing you gradually go through it. And then when you finally do it, I guarantee you, in most cases, you're going to say, God, Lee, this is, first of all, more natural. And second of all, man, I should have done this a long time ago. What kept me? And it's going to go right back to just self awareness, realizing that this is something you should accept and affirm yourself in, regardless, and that there's other brothers like you out here who's going to affirm you and pick you up and say, hey, man, welcome to being a not a hair model. So that would be my thing. Do what's good for you, affirm yourself. Hey, my name is Darryl Bego. Listen up. I'm here to tell you that naked heads rock. Naked heads rock. So if you didn't know, now you know.